All right, so we're joined right now in the Travis Gafford Esports Studio, this room.
It's better than the last one.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Well, actually, I'm planning on doing a lot to make this room not look so bare. Like, we were going to put up some, like, paneling or something to make it look a little bit more like a studio, but haven't gotten around to that yet.
You got great books and magazines
Yeah,
and comics.
don't show them that at all.
Okay.
They don't need to know there's just a box sitting over there. I try to make it look like it's mostly clean.
Oh, man.
The Omni/Mike flag sitting in the back for when I go to LCS shortly. So for those of you that don't know, Sebastian Park is the guy that basically runs all the Clutch Gaming stuff, yes?
That's a pretty accurate description, yeah.
Okay. And so he approached me about doing an interview about this, and we kind of went back and forth and realized it'd be kind of cool to do something before LCS rather than like interview at LCS and have it come out on like Tuesday or Wednesday. And so we came up with the idea of doing a live stream before the start of the show, or start of the LCS. So thanks for coming in.
Of course, man. I mean, thanks for having me. We had a chance to talk yesterday, and we made the announcement, and we're like, well, we sort of want to answer questions, but Reddit always seems strange. Just like comment on Reddit, and like on Twitter, there's like you say something and no one really hears you. So we figured, we talk to you and do it before the game start in a couple hours. For the second game.
Thanks for thanks again. So you referenced that you made an announcement yesterday.
Yeah.
Some of these people might not have caught the announcement. Do you want to explain what you guys announced?
Sure. So we mutually parted ways with David Lim as our head coach yesterday. Announced that Anand Curry Argawal, who was our assistant coach, is the interim head coach now.
Okay. And it's Curry. What's his handle?
His name is Curry, and that's his handle.
Okay, cool.
And not Curry Shot, by the way. That's a very different person.
That's why I wanted to clarify, because I think some people might believe that.
Curry is the former assistant coach for TSM when they used to win championships, and then recently became our assistant coach at the start of the split, or started this year rather. And he's been, he's great. He's been leading practices. He's been an integral part of our organization up and down, and so when we found out that we'd be parting ways, like he seemed like a great person to be going on stage, and frankly, he was already supposed to be on stage as a stage coach this week, regardless of anything else.
So a lot of people will look at the timing of this and feel like this is results driven, and that Clutch had a very good first split to this year, debut split. But has struggled to find footing in the summer split. Was that a factor in this?
No, not at all. I mean, I think I told you this before the beginning of the first split, which is I thought our expectation of where we finished was between like 3 and 10. And like that hasn't changed.
Yeah.
And in terms of our performance, I'm not too concerned right now. There are two reasons for that. One, we're only 1 game out from being in a tie for playoffs, and 2 games out from being solidified in playoffs, and 3 games out from potentially getting a first round bye with 6 games to go. And one of the beauties about being in 10th place is that you literally will play everyone ahead of you.
Yeah.
And so it's not as dire or as crazy as people think. The second thing is that, honestly, we make the gauntlet like 90% of the time. Like, we run our models every week to see like what our gauntlet odds are. And unless something crazy happens in the standings, like we make it 9 times out of 10.
Okay.
And so it's not for competitive reasons at all.
Okay. I mean, it's interesting to hear that you feel fine, because it does feel like you guys are in, even in a world where you can still make the gauntlet, like it does feel like you guys are in a place where the team isn't as strong, and it feels like we're seeing the results of that, right? That you guys are making roster changes, for instance. Last week we saw a different roster change. A lot of people who want to experiment with rosters are probably going to do that in the first half of the split, not as we're careening towards the very end of it, right?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Our big thing was, because our goal isn't to win summer split, and that's never been really our goal. Our goal has always been, hey, like, let's be one of the 3 teams to make worlds. And insofar as we took 4th place last split, that helps us out a ton, right? The way championship points tend to work, or definitively work, right, is that 5th and 6th place this summer split still have fewer points than people who are in 4th from last split,
right? But
more points than people who are 5th and 6th last split. Right, and the person who's 4th has more points than the person who's 4th. It all gets like shifted down. And so given that, from our perspective, once we entered, I think, week 6, we had gone 0-4 the previous 2 weeks. And so suddenly our playoffs odds went from something like 70% to like 30%.
Sure.
And so like every marginal win and loss after that doesn't affect it as much as like, hey, like we didn't feel as though, and we still don't feel like we're a top 3 team. And if the goal is to become a top 3 team, like we have to take some chances, we have to experiment a little bit, but to see what can happen there. And that was really driven in large part by the people on the ground, so like guys like Ryan Friedman and Yuan Feng, as well as the coaching staff, formerly David, Curry, Nasser in Europe, as well as Alec on the ground here. And so when I think I mentioned this last week, it was a group decision in that they were like, hey, let's give this a try. We really do poorly against Team Liquid pretty frequently, and so it's like, oh, okay, we had the opposite decision making that most people had. They're like, oh, this is such a hard schedule, why like give it to a rookie like in Vulcan or Piglet or a different roster composition? And in my mind, it was like, no, it's like we have a hard schedule. Like we lose these games some larger than 50% of the time anyway. We were red side both games. We like weren't favored in either game. And so for me at least, it was like, okay, like it makes more sense to like test out things here and see how it goes. And it would have been great to have got to the winner two last week, but it hasn't changed our playoff odds that much. And the only thing that's changed is just the optics of like where we're in the standings. So it's like 10th place as opposed to like being in like 2nd place or something.
Yeah. But do you feel secure in your position right now? Because a lot of people seeing Clutch lose so many games, they would say somebody who's running that org should not feel secure in the team's strength and position.
Oh no, we're not. We think the team probably is performing like the team is probably right now. If the error ranges were to like be condensed, we're like playing like a 5th or 6th to 10th place team, right? And that's not where we need to be. We need to be a top 3 team to make Worlds, right?
Right.
And more importantly, even for not top 3 teams, we have to be the best team that doesn't qualify for Worlds.
Yeah.
And that's hard to be right now, and we're definitely not. We're not having those results in scrims. We're not having those results on stage, and I get it. Some people blame the patch, but that's just not. Like, patches are part of the game. I honestly think that a lot of the changes have been good for the health of the game, and it's really creating a lot of interest in people who haven't played for a while coming back to the game, and those are all good things. And so from our perspective, it was more like, hey, we make Gauntlet most of the time. We're still on the hunt for the playoffs, and we're fine in the sense that we need to make improvements, but it's not as though we're trying to fire everyone or switch everything up or try people get stage time just for the sake of giving them stage time. That's not really it.
What roster do you guys have for this weekend?
So this weekend we have the original 5.
Okay.
So we have Solo, Lyra, Feathervin, Apollo Hakuo for this week.
And what are your expectations for this weekend?
I have to be completely honest. Like coaching changes and any like change in the organization is always tumultuous, right? Like it causes a lot of strife. It causes a lot of deltas and expectation, and so it's hard for me to project how we're going to do this week. We're playing Cloud9 and Optic. Both have been playing very well, like in the past few weeks.
Right.
They both have very different styles of play. Cloud9, they have Licorice, and that's sort of how they played through. But now they have Sneaky back and Jensen back and all these, and they basically have their entire roster back. And then
minus Smoothie,
minus Spence Garrett.
Yeah.
The big.
But they've got the big I think Sneaky and Jensen people tend to think of as the core,
Yeah, at least a carry core, right?
Yeah.
So they're going to have the type of shot calling you may have seen missing from previous weeks in that team. And then Optic has been playing super well. We have to be very worried about just all of their random pocket picks, and we'll find out if they're running Alorum or Dokla like in 12 hours or so, and we'll prep for that then. And so, our focus has really been, hey, let's focus on trying to be good this week and trying to like put a great draft together, make sure that our team is comfortable to play our game, and then hopefully pull out a couple wins.
Cool. Maybe we can take some questions from the chat. I'm sure in a second that they'll start filling up the chat with questions about Clutch. Somebody's already asking what happened to Spence Garrett. He's on the bench. I don't know if he's playing this weekend, but he's been benched recently.
See.
Yeah, I mean, I assume he still is.
It's funny, right? Because they have to tell us.
Yes.
Like yesterday.
Yeah.
And so Spence Garrett is not playing. It's
Okay.
Licorice, Blabber, Jensen, Sneaky, Zazel.
Yeah.
They'll be on the side.
The
I'm
one
not sure
they've
if
been
that's a
playing with.
spoiler.
Omphase6 asks, where did you get your start in esports, Sebastian?
Sure. So I got my start in esports back in 2013, 2014 I was at Namecheap, the domain registrar, doing user acquisitions, and we sponsored Team Liquid, Tempo Storm, Team Archon, a few streamers who were streaming like Hearthstone and World of Warcraft back then, and went from there into running smaller esports teams, running to Clutch.
Yeah. Let's see. Marinado says, was Piglet ever tried with Hakuho?
Yeah, so Piglet ran a couple of games in scrims with Hakuho. There's a lot of questions, and we get this question a lot. There's a lot of question as to whether or not synergy matters in that sense.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think especially we're divided on this thinking as well. It's like, hey, do you keep people who've played together so that they can keep playing together and they know their tendencies, or do you put in the top starters you have always? And that's a great question. We don't know the answer. We were trying both things in scrims for a while. For what it's worth, like Philippe Vulcan is a super solid rookie, and I'm sure he's going to do super well. But, at the same time, that's not to take I mentioned this last week, like, Hakuho is an all NALCS support player. Nick is great. We grabbed dinner the other day, and he's still really good. And so that to us that's an interesting combination. Give it a try. At the same time, like, there's been a lot of value in what we've seen with like Apollo Hakuho, for example, and then their synergies. Nawdog
Ain't Me says, did you try Piglet mid?
No, although he does like Rise a lot. I think Rise is his second most played champion in Academy this year. Even though he takes it bot almost always, he loves Rise.
Yeah. Let's see. Deadward asks, will it most likely be Apollo and Hakuho for the rest of the season, Gauntlet, and playoffs?
I mean, I would say if the question is most likely, it probably is most likely.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the delta for change is always higher. Like, it's always harder to be the change of a composition than the actual composition. At the same time, like, I trust my staff, and I trust Curry, and I trust the analyst staff behind them to try different things, especially as we prep for whatever is the best roster for the Gauntlet run.
Yeah.
Hopefully Worlds too. You didn't include Worlds in there. Season, Gauntlet, playoffs, and Worlds. Yes. Right.
Kitsune of Music says, regardless of the results, will there be any people from Clutch going to the finals for the activations before the event?
Yeah, so 100% will be at the finals. We're doing some really funky things right now.
Okay.
We've been planning for the last few weeks. San Francisco's a great city. I'll be there for sure. We're going to be bringing out a lot of our staff just to showcase some of the cool things we have planned. We have a really large space. I actually don't know if that's been announced yet.
Okay, but there's a space.
But there's a space, and there'll be a space for teams to do cool things, and we're going to try some fun, cool things.
Yeah. Gerard05 says, plans with Piglet once he gets residency.
So, I mean, Piglet getting residency is sort of a large reason why we have Piglet on our roster in general. That's a decision we have to make next year. And, frankly, there was interest in Piglet during the trade deadline, and so I'm sure there'll be interest in Piglet at the end of the split as well. So, the range of options. He's still very good. He's very much the same player he was 2-3 years ago.
Yeah. Lovey Lucifer 666 says, would you consider trading Lyra for Meteos? I'll just turn that around and ask, what was your thought? Because 100 Thieves claim that they approached every team with Meteos as a trade.
That's true, yeah.
What were your thoughts on whenever you were approached by 100 Thieves for Meteos?
My first thought was, I'm really glad it didn't leak.
Okay.
I'm just saying, it would have really sucked. Do you have a lacrosse sponsorship now?
I don't.
Oh, man,
I'm just thirsty. There's one in the fridge if you want to.
I'll grab one on the way out.
Yeah.
So, I think it's really important that it didn't leak. That teams can talk to each other honestly. Thank you, Bravely Platonic.
Yeah.
For subbing to the Travis stream.
I've realized that's popping up on your face.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's covering some nothing to hide.
Yes,
sure. In any case, I was glad no one leaked it because we had heard about it. We knew they were reaching out to people, and we were like, "That's great. You should reach out to people. We want there to be more movement. I think movement's really healthy for the game."
Yeah.
And so that was my first thought. Thank God no one leaked it until it was announced. The second thought was we weren't entirely sure, so we did a lot of due diligence. We had looked at Will in the preseason, very briefly. Like, we were pretty much set on the people we had targeted, and we wanted to import jungle. And so Will wasn't on our radar as much back then. We were really surprised with how well Will played Spring Split. We completely understand why 100 Thieves and FlyQuest did what they did, but it wasn't really an option we were going to pursue.
Leonardo Oliva says, is CG thinking about doing a show like TSM Legends?
So we have a show called CG Uprising, and it's sort of interesting. I think
it's sort of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a different style.
What a great sell.
No, I mean, it's just a different style than TSM Legends or Breaking Point, right? Sure. We're not doing something where, like, we're bringing the house down. But we are doing some interesting pieces. Like, our last piece that just came out yesterday was about Moon's shoes and him coming back to the LCS, and he had been away for about 9 months, so it was good for him to get back on stage. That was fun.
Yeah. Let's see. It looks like some people recognize what you were saying. Let's see. Looks like maybe we're winding down on questions. You Can't Control Me One says, what do you think of the Dive criticizing Piglet as a teammate? I've not seen this week's episode of the Dive where they criticized him, apparently.
I haven't either. They probably are referring to his interview, if I had to guess.
Oh,
he
sure.
did that invert interview where he just like threw everyone under the bus and he's like super honest.
Yeah.
I think that's a double-edged sword, right? Like, some people really respond well to good criticism, and he's generally right about that kind of crap.
Yeah, but how many people respond well to public criticism?
Right, like that's a great point. I mean, I think he's definitely a character.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's like the opposite of what Piglet would do. You know?
Okay. Last question is from Nawdog Ain't Me. He says, can we get more videos of Apollo and Solo playing basketball?
No, Solo maybe, Apollo probably less so. Solo's actually good at basketball, and Apollo is worse than me.
Yeah, well,
I
think we were able to talk for about 20 minutes or so. We're less than an hour out from LCS, and the broadcast should be starting in about half an hour. So,
are there any other questions? I just want to make sure we haven't missed anything.
People talking about Evo.
Oh, Evo's great. I was watching some Tekken earlier. That's not why I was late, by the way.
Sure,
I was late for other reasons, but. Any questions you see that are interesting?
I don't think so. I think I mean there's a couple we skipped just because I think it's harder to figure out what a good answer is to those questions, or they're kind of off topic. But I don't know. Looks like we're winding down.
Cool.
Do you think CG will ever sponsor a fighting game? Says Mr. McLean.
Oh man, we'd love to. Like Smash Ultimate. Maybe?
Yeah.
The new League of Legends fighting game that's supposed to be announced.
Yes.
Allegedly.
That Riot has claimed is not going to get announced.
Right.
So, was Muranado says, was Piglet okay with the return to Academy?
I mean, he went back.
Yeah.
He played. So, no one's happy to be going up and down, right?
Yeah.
And I think we were really lucky that our players were super understanding. Like, all of our players were, right?
Yeah.
It was sort of a massive smurf to poor 100 Thieves, right? Every time they played against us in Academy, like, we had 1 to 3 LCS starters down there.
Yeah. I think we're winding down. So, thank you so much, Sebastian, for coming in.
Thanks
really
for
appreciate it. Yeah, we'll keep the stream going for a couple minutes, but
sure.
That's it for this video. If you're watching on YouTube, Sebastian Park, everybody. That's what's going on with his team, and be sure to check out more coverage of all things LCS right here on this YouTube channel. And technically, this is not an LCS interview, but I still want to shout out to OmniSlash, who I will be covering as always, as my sponsor for LCS. So thanks everyone for watching.